or why I'm not, of course. So we should still go vote. So do that. So you guys want to hear a story? A little bit of a story?
Go for it.
All right. So Frank, I've known Frank since I was younger than you guys. So my grandmother was a lovely lady. This lady right here in the middle, right here. And she lived to be 94 years young. But my grandfather died before I was born. So she was married. She was widowed longer than she was married. And when she died, we had a lot of pictures. One was of her cat princess, but the other one was of this, and she had many of these, cease and desist order from the Offutt Air Force Base. And so she was arrested many times for crossing on military bases and the School of Americas. I'm sure many other places she didn't tell us about. But the person who was probably most responsible for her many arrests is our guest speaker here. Or you can say maybe my grandmother is responsible for his arrests. I don't know. So with that, I'm going to introduce Frank. And he's going to talk about whatever he feels like talking about.
Thanks, Eric. His grandmother was really a wonderful woman. One of the many that had come to our community in our house to help us at the Catholic Worker. Look, anything worthwhile was started by a woman. So, good women make them happen. So having that been an overall general position, I'm glad I'm here. Eric asked me to give a persuasive talk. So this is going to be a persuasive talk. And I'm going to try to talk to you about Jesus and how to follow him in a pro-rich, pro-war, U.S. empire Christian nation. And this introduction that's been all over the school and this poster kind of introduce you kind of like what I've done in my life to follow him. And now I want to tell you a little more personal why I follow him, because I think the Jesus thing is a personal thing. Everybody who discovers him personally. I discovered him as a Catholic, an Italian American in the 1950s when I was born, and got baptized. And then in my first Holy Communion, which is a big deal, Italian American ethnic thing on the south side of Des Moines, my father had his first heart attack, a killer heart attack. So I went to the church with a couple second-string cousins, and the rest of my family, which was legion, was at the hospital. And for a 7-year-old to have communion, think about eating the body and blood of Christ, which was a big deal, that was all gone from me. All I could pray was, dear God, let my father live. And he did. For 10 years. And then on Easter Sunday morning, my senior year, he died of a heart attack. I tell you this story because my father was the center of my life. He was the athletic director at Dowling, baseball coach. I idolized him, World War II vet, wounded, hero, noble and heroic human being. Brought me up to be a person who saw a life that was noble and heroic too. Now, when my father died, it just crushed me. I went to UNI, got my BA in PE and health. I never bought a book in my discipline. It was physical education and health. What did I get? Maybe a 1.9. Didn't care, because people don't hire coaches because they got 4 points. And I also fell in love with Jesus, found him. It happened. In the 70s, I was a Catholic, and there were no charismatic Pentecostal Catholics. I got involved in the charismatic movement, and it was a rare thing. I know it's hard to believe, But back then, for a Catholic to say they had a personal relationship with Jesus was just, nobody did that. I did. My family did. We got involved in it. It was exciting. And the one thing I can tell you about that is I got hooked on Jesus, and then I was committed to following him. And reading this book. My BA is in PE and health. I didn't buy a textbook. I didn't know how to read, couldn't spell. The only two books I really read in college, the first one was The Little Prince, extraordinary. And then the New Testament, knocked me off my feet. I just read it, it was big print. I read it like I was reading a story, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And after I got done with that, I read the other ones, Paul, all the way through, and then I couldn't believe it. I'm thinking like, am I reading this wrong? Because I don't think anybody's following this guy. So I asked the two priests I know, wonderful guys, really important to me. I says, you know, I don't see anybody following him. This book says something different. And they say, yeah, it's the problem. So the rest of my life I've been trying to follow this guy. Now, this is the persuasive part of why I want you to tell you about this book. We all carry the same book. And most people, when they read the book, they see a duck. Do you guys see a duck there? Can you see a duck there? Okay. But when I read the same thing, I see a rabbit. You guys see a rabbit there? This is the persuasive thing. Subtle, but listen, you know, we all read in the same book, but how we read it makes all the difference in the world. I am a modern human being. I divide modern human beings from old human beings, from flat earth people to the universe. You really made a major lump. You know the flat earth people? When this book was written, it was written in a flat earth people world. I'm not a flat earth person. I belong to the universe world. God made the universe. We're not the center of the universe, are we? We're a planet with a star in a galaxy, in a million galaxies. Hey, we're hardly the center of the universe because we are modern people. Got it? Yeah. Now, the other thing I need to know about being a modern person, in the 70 years of my life in this country, I'm 71. In those years, and I speak of them as a generation, we are the worst generation the world has ever known by a factor of 10. That's us baby boomers. Folks born after World War II in this country, our lifetime, we are the worst human beings on the planet by a factor of 10. Because I'm a modern person. And I know that the way we are interfacing with the planet, and that when I was born there might have been 2 billion people, now there are 9 billion people. In my lifetime, we are destroying the life forces of the planet. And if you look at it scientifically, the species, human species, compared to the rest of the life forces of the planet, seem like a fast-growing cancer.